Marketing. It's how we get our name out there so people will actually buy our product or service. And aside from repeat customers or customer referrals, it's kind of the only way to let people know about your services. So if you're a photographer wanting to know a little bit more about marketing your photography business, this video is for you. I'll be covering 3 ways to market your business: social media, SEO, and networking. These are some of, if not the most important and effective ways to market your photography business. But before I get into those, let's first cover the basics of marketing. Before you dive too deeply into the best ways to market yourself, you need to have a few things in place first. A well-designed website that is tailored to your ideal client, a professional-looking social media presence, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, or even TikTok, or ideally some combination of 2 or more of those. And if you're marketing your photography to a local market, a Google business profile is super helpful. The website and social media are going to be especially important, as those will be the front doors to your business's house. The way people will discover and learn about your business will be through one of those channels. So put a lot of effort into those 2 areas. Now, there are differing opinions on this, but I believe that the more you can design your website or social media around your ideal client, the better. If your ideal client is a wedding couple, you don't want to be showing car photography on your website right next to the wedding content. You want to get as specific as you possibly can so that it's super obvious exactly what you do. This is going to help your ideal client see you as a specialist in that area, rather than somebody who dabbles in a bunch of different things. It can be hard with all the different social media platforms to know which one you should be putting your time into. I would say start with Instagram and just kind of go from there. From my experience, Instagram seems to be kind of the industry standard. People expect you to have an Instagram and oftentimes will look you up on there before even trying to find your website. Pinterest is an interesting one too, though. I don't think it replaces Instagram, but it can be a good tool to drive traffic to your website and is definitely worth looking into. I'm also going to put a link in the description to our marketing guide for photographers, so give that a look if it's interesting to you. Now let's get into those 3 main ways to market, starting with social media, and Instagram in particular. Instagram is a fantastic tool. Like I mentioned earlier, it's one of the main ways people are going to find your business. It's also how I like to communicate and network with other people in my industry. Now, there's a good chance that you already have an Instagram account set up and ready to go for your photography business, but how can you optimize it to work for you? The first and easiest thing is going to be your bio. Far too often, I see messy, cluttered bios full of unnecessary fluff. Get rid of that. Your bio should be simple and straight to the point. You want to tell people what services you offer, what makes you special, and a link to your website. If you've been featured or published anywhere, this is also a good place to mention that. But that's about it. You don't need to tell people you're a dog lover or a coffee addict. Keep it simple, keep it professional. Ideally, try to keep your bio short enough so that people don't have to click the More button to see the rest of your bio. Now, there are definitely multiple ways to approach how you structure your bio and what you put in there. In no way is what I'm saying the law, but in my opinion, looking more professional is generally better. If your brand image is very bubbly and friendly, then yeah, it probably makes sense to include a bit more about you as a person. But I would still try to keep it as concise and simple as possible. And you can be personable without talking about your favorite movie or putting a bunch of emojis in your bio. The other big mistake I see people making with their Instagram is being a bit all over the place with their color palette. One photo on their grid will have a lot of blue tones, while another is full of green, and another is full of warm with lots of orange tones. There's no color consistency, and when you look at a grid like that, it doesn't feel intentional. It feels kind of messy. You want your grid to feel purposeful and curated. Even if you take amazing photos, if your grid looks messy, it takes away from the overall sense of quality. And I'll be the first to say this is not easy. You have to be very intentional with what photos you post, which can be super difficult, especially if you don't have a large library of content to work from. Going along with that theme of curation, make sure that you are posting the right photos. I talked a bit about this at the beginning with the website. In my opinion, you should only be posting photos in the niche that you want to work in. So if you're trying to go after weddings, don't post real estate or car photos. Only post wedding photos. When someone lands on your page, it's going to show them that you specialize in weddings. That's what you do. Couples looking for a wedding photographer will see you as more of an expert in that field, and other wedding vendors will take you more seriously because it's obvious that weddings aren't just like a side thing for you. This is your main thing. And getting even more specific with that, only post what you want to book. You may be marketing yourself as a wedding photographer, but let's say you want to niche down into disco cowgirl themed weddings in particular. You should only be posting photos that fit that vibe. You'll probably have a bunch of other wedding photos that you've shot that don't necessarily fit that criteria, Catholic weddings, backyard weddings, etc. Don't post those. If you're really serious about shooting those disco cowgirl themed weddings, you need to make it look like you only shoot that type of wedding. That way when people come to your page, it's obvious the type of weddings that you do and that you want to do. This can also help you get referrals from other wedding vendors. If a planner in your area knows that you specialize in disco cowgirl themed weddings and they get a bride who really wants that style for their wedding, you might very well be the first person that they recommend because they see you posting that type of content all the time. My final point for social media curation is this: know your audience, and more specifically, your ideal client. Continuing with the wedding photography example, your ideal client is probably going to be brides looking for a photographer or maybe wedding planners. So make sure that the content you're posting is for that audience. If you're making reels about your camera gear or how perfectly you've organized your office, that might be great, but it's not targeting your audience. Brides and wedding planners probably don't care about camera equipment, and if you're making a lot of that content, you're ultimately going to drive your target audience away. Everything about your social media profile and website, for that matter, should be tailored to your ideal client. And one more thing. From personal experience, I have found that collab posts almost always get significantly more views and likes. If you're able to collaborate with a client or a fellow industry vendor on a post, you could definitely see higher engagement. Let's talk SEO, search engine optimization. Basically, the better your SEO is, the closer to the top of the Google search results your website will show up, which is ideal. The goal with any website is that when somebody searches for your particular keywords, your website should be the first thing to show up. So the first thing you need to figure out is your keywords. Let's say you're a real estate photographer in Boise, Idaho. The main keywords you're probably going to want are real estate photographer, Boise, Idaho, maybe luxury home photographer, or your business name, stuff like that. So once you have your keywords, you're going to want to place them throughout your website, primarily with the H1 and H2 tags, as that's what Google prioritizes for keywords. In addition to using your keywords with those H1 and H2 tags, try to incorporate them into your website's general content as well. Where it feels natural, of course, you don't want to go overboard here. You don't want to just stuff your keywords in every little nook and cranny. You want to be intentional about it. Another thing you can do to boost your SEO is writing blog posts on topics that your ideal client might be searching for. For example, if you're a wedding photographer, you could write a blog post on the best wedding venues in your area. When brides are looking for venues in your area, your blog post will hopefully come up high in the search results, and the more traffic it gets, the higher Google is going to rank your overall website. Google also really likes when your website has backlinks. That's when another website links to your website. It increases the authenticity of your site, and Google will place you higher on their listings because of it. If you're able to get fellow industry vendors or publications to link to your site, this can be really helpful. If you want more info on SEO, check out our video on SEO for photographers. We'll link it in the description. On to the last of the three main marketing methods, and what I would say is the most important thing: networking and word of mouth. Word of mouth referrals are one of the most effective ways to land clients. Even in my own life, outside of photography, if I ever need a service done for me, like a roof replacement, the first thing I'm going to do when looking for a roofer is ask my close friends and family if they have any recommendations. But the only way people will talk about you is if they know you, which is where networking comes in. There are a few main ways to network, those being social media engagement, cold outreach, and in-person networking. Social media engagement is very simple. Find the person you're trying to connect with and just start engaging with them on social media, commenting on their posts, liking their stories, maybe sending short DMs about something that stood out to you about their work. It's important to note that in doing this, you're not selling to them. You're not going to DM them and say, "Hey, I want to work with your clients, recommend me." It's purely about connection and getting this person to start noticing you. Now, cold outreach would be kind of the follow-up to this. It's where you send an email or maybe a social media DM to the person you're trying to connect with in an effort to solidify a business relationship. This can be hard, especially if the person has no idea who you are. So to make it easier, I would recommend the following. Connect with them on social media first. Spend some time, weeks, maybe even a couple months just engaging with their content. Hopefully this will kind of open the door so that when you do reach out in a more formal way, you already have some sort of relationship established, or at the very least, they might recognize your name. In addition to this, when you send that cold email, don't just straight up ask them to hire you or send work your way. Nobody likes being sold to, especially when it's unexpected. Start out by just trying to establish that relationship with them, maybe inviting them out to coffee or even offering to do something for them for free. And just a brief side tangent, collaborating with someone on a free project can be a really great way to build a connection with them. I personally have had some success with cold outreach, but that being said, it's difficult and it is less valuable compared to in-person networking. In-person networking is probably the most effective form of networking. Having that face-to-face time with someone is really powerful, and there's a bunch of ways you can do this. Meeting up with someone one-on-one, going to dedicated networking events or workshops, or you can even pay for a mentorship with someone you look up to and want to build a connection with. If you do photography for events, the event itself can also be a great opportunity to connect with your fellow vendors. As someone who shoots weddings, the wedding itself is a perfect place to network with the planner and the venue owner. I'm able to chat with them prior to the wedding via email, I get that face-to-face time with them on the wedding day, and I'm able to send them my finished photos after the wedding and prove my worth to them. I think above everything though, the key to networking and building connections is just to be a pleasure to work with and be around. Even if your work is beautiful, if you're a pain to work with or you don't treat people with respect, you're kind of grumpy or rude, people aren't going to want to refer you. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. If you did find it helpful, be sure to subscribe for more photography related content and check out our photography report linked below to know more about the changing landscape of the photography industry. I'll also link to a couple videos below that might be helpful. Okay, bye.